Hello everyone, welcome back to Vinayak Sir Academy, Bengaluru. This is topic of the day discussion session. Today we'll be discussing a very important topic, that is the ongoing cases of sewer deaths. India has achieved independence in 1947. It is 2025 now. Even now there are issues of sewer deaths. Why? We'll understand why the sewer deaths are even now happening and what is the implications of this and how you can overcome this. This is very important, especially from UPSC mains perspective, and that too in GS paper 2 and 1 in social issues. So whatever the points which I'm going to give you, whatever the data which I'll be providing you, make note of this data, becomes very important. Recently there was a social audit conducted, that is social audit commissioned by the Ministry of Social Justice investigated 54 sewer and septic tank worker deaths across 8 states and union territories during the 2023-24, 22-23. So during this period, there have been 54 deaths in the sewer or sewage and septic tanks. So the findings were made public during the Lok Sabha session following a question by Congress MP Praniti Sushil Kumar Shinde. So this is the sewer which someone is treating. So we'll discuss the key findings of the audit. The major cause for the death of sewer is the lack of safety gear. That is, out of 54, 49 deaths or deceased workers had no safety gear. Only 5 had gloves and 1 had both gloves and gumboots. Okay, when you are working on the sewer, you need some sort of gloves because you will be treating the sewer there. So it is filled up of all kinds of waste, both manual, animals, industrial, etc. kinds of waste should be there. So you need some sort of protection for hands as well as your feet, that is such as gumboots. 47 cases involved no availability of mechanized equipment or safety gears. That is a very grave cause or things to be worried. Only 2 cases had equipment made available, only 1 case had a proper training. Next, under this, there was lack of consent and training. That is, 27 workers were made to work without giving consent, which is against the law. In 18 cases where the consent was given, no counseling on the risk was done. Okay, so most of the times what happens here is the people who are working in the sewer are those communities or those sections of the society who are on the lower end, who belong to certain vulnerable communities such as SC/ST, who are either very poor or who are not able to sustain their livelihoods. So these kinds of people, out of the desperation, they try to go into these kind of works. Sometimes even without their consent they are made or they are forced into work, and sometimes even when they give the consent there is no proper counseling or the training is done for these people. Workers lacked awareness of legal protections and risk related knowledge. Without the knowledge, they were forced into these works. As a result, the deaths were occurred. Precarious hiring mechanisms. 38 workers were hired individually or contractually, and only 5 by the government agencies, 3 by public sector, but hired privately. Next, this reflects outsourcing of accountability and absence of job security. Okay, see how they are being hired. There is no contract, there is no government agencies involved here. They are just hired for a particular job and then they are left back to the job. Once the job is done, then they are relieved. So there is no job security and also there is no accountability issue as well. If they are being hired by the government agencies, then there will be more accountability on the government agencies. So to escape this accountability, what they are doing is they are being hired individually or contractually from third end parties. Okay. Next, lack of awareness and preparedness. Awareness drives were conducted only partially in 7 cases in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. There is no rapid response or rescue preparedness found in most of these instances. So even when there is no awareness, and even when in case there is awareness, and even when you are involved in certain mishappenings, there was no rapid rescue or response system present there as well. In case some accident happens when you are working in the sewer, there was no rapid or response system present in that areas, which led to death. So these are some illustrations of the sewage. These are some illustration of manual scavenging. So we'll see what are the government measures which have taken here. Government, in response to this, has taken or cited the Namaste scheme, that is the National Action for Mechanized Sanitation Ecosystem, which was launched in July 2023. The aim is to eliminate hazardous manual cleaning by providing training, mechanization, and rehabilitation. And so far, 84,902 workers identified across 36 states and union territories have been identified under Namaste scheme and have been trained under Namaste scheme. Only half have received PPE and safety kits. Though training is provided, the safety kits or the PPE kits are not having provided to the people there. So we'll do the ethical analysis of this issue. One is with respect to human dignity and the right to life. In Indian Constitution, the Article 21 talks about right to life. How is the right to life? With the dignity. Okay, right to life and liberty, and that too with right to live in dignity. So most of the times what happens here is, in India, people often have the right to life, but do they have the dignity? In most of the cases, no. They are made to work in certain conditions out of their desperation, out of their necessity, which is undermining their right to dignity here. So 21 of the Constitution guarantees right to life with dignity. Forcing individuals into life-threatening, inhuman conditions without safety gear or informed consent is gross violation of this dignity. Next is negligence of duty by the state and institutions. As we said, when they were hired, these hiring mechanisms were outsourced. They were hired by outsource. Here the government or the social or the state institutions are trying to escape their accountability. The lack of preparedness, equipment and training shows systematic apathy. Where we need empathy, there is apathy. Instead of empathy, the system or bureaucracy follows apathy, meaning they do not have any kind of concern for the issues of the downtrodden. Next, despite the prohibition of employment as Manual Scavengers Act 2013, enforcement is lax, showing ethical failure in governance. In most of the sewer cases, the worst form of sewer cases are those which involve manual scavenging. What is this manual scavenging? It is an act whereby an individual is made to treat open latrines. Open latrines, meaning here an individual is cleaning the excretus of another human being, which is the worst form of inhumanity. Okay, it is an inhuman practice, and most of the times what used to happen was the manual scavengers belong to communities of SC or ST. This in a way reinforced the caste discrimination that is present in India. So understanding the significance or understanding the negative impacts that this manual scavenging has on the human being or the human dignity, the government brought an act in 2023 or 2013 which banned this manual scavenging. But like most of the cases, though there is a law available, though there is rules available, it is not followed in reality. As a result, the recent 53 deaths or 54 deaths due to sewer, and among them many of them are involved in manual scavenging, shows that though the law is present, the proper implementation is absent. Next, informed consent and autonomy. Here, what is happening in these cases is that in half of the cases there was no consent was taken, and even when it was, workers were not informed of the risks. Most of the people, as I told you, do this out of their desperation because they have to provide their family, because they have to provide for themselves. As a result, they go for these inhuman works, and when they go for these inhuman works, they are unaware of the risks that are involved here. So whose duty is it to provide the awareness? It is a duty of the state. It is a duty of persons who are hiring them. But in most of the cases, these risks were not provided or they were not considered. This is a direct violation of ethical principles of autonomy and free will. especially in hazardous occupation. In ethical principles of autonomy and the free will is not practiced here. The free will or autonomy is not practiced in no consent, and free will is not provided in information of the works or risks. Sorry. So other ethical consideration is with respect to exploitation and inequality. The majority of sanitation workers come from marginalized caste and poor socio-economic backgrounds. So the continued reliance on their labor without the safety reflects caste-based discrimination, economic exploitation, and deep-rooted structural inequality in India. So that is what I explained you previously. And also the escape of institutional accountability. The system allows private contractors and public institutions to outsource the risk without taking responsibility. So they are outsourcing the risk, meaning they are hiring them without any contract, or they are hiring individually and they are made to work in those sewers. As a result, the person who is responsible is escaping that accountability. Ethically, this is a disguised form of bonded labor, as workers have no real choice or no protection. This bonded labor, this has been abolished under Article 23 in the Constitution of India. Any sort of bonded labor, caste discrimination, untouchability has been abolished in Indian Constitution. However, this is a different form of bonded labor where they are not doing it as per the law and they are using their desperation and their lack of real choice to their advantages. Symbolic promises and ground reality. The government's claim that manual scavenging has ended contrasts starkly with the field data. Ethically problematic to deny reality while the death continues. This reflects failure in truthfulness and public accountability. Okay. So these are the ethical considerations. So what should be the way forward? How do you address this kind of issues? This is not only economical in nature, this is also social in nature. So these kinds of issues require a nuanced approach where it not only addresses social, but it should also cover economical addresses as well. It should also empower them economically. Strict enforcement of prohibition on manual and hazardous sewer cleaning. Universal provision of the PPE kits, mechanized cleaning equipment, and rapid response teams. Next, real-time monitoring system for high-risk sanitation jobs. Legal protection and compensation for our affected families should be provided. Caste and class-sensitive policy reforms are required so that the voice of the workers is heard. Then, public awareness and destigmatization campaign on the sanitation work should also be held. So, not only addressing the economic or the political, but also social as well. Next. In conclusion, the audit exposes a deeply unjust, unsafe, and unethical system of sanitation labor that violates the core tenets of the justice, equality, and dignity. The deaths of sewer workers, though preventable and repeated, represent a failure of both the policy and morality. Ethical governance demands not only policy reforms but a shift in social attitudes and institutional accountability. So all these things should be addressed so that there are no more deaths due to sewer cleaning or manual scavenging in India. Okay, when India tries to become the Vishwaguru, there are certain issues in our own house that should be addressed first. So one of the major issue is this sewer work or sewer deaths or manual scavenging. So this is the topic for the day. If you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment your views on the topic, and also share with your friends. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.